All right, so story asking. So the goal for story asking is to get the students engaged into creating a story that is their own. Now, their own is what they think. They will say, oh, that's our story, we created our story. But the story is your story. The teacher guides them through many, many repetitions, which is our goal. And you want to focus on the target structures, is the vocabulary that we're focusing on. So for story asking, as I learned story asking with Martina Bex's curriculum, Somos. I absolutely love Somos. And Martina Bex has, in her curriculum, she has already made the scripts for this. So you can choose to use a script or be spontaneous and just on the go with it. But I definitely recommend that you start with a script until you feel comfortable to come up with one on the go. So I've been using the scripts now for 6 years, and just now I am starting to feel comfortable that if you give me some verbs that I have used in my classroom enough, I can create a story on the go.
Yeah.
But normally, it'll require a little bit of practice and a little bit of something to give you an idea of where to go with it. In a story asking, you want to focus on no more than 3 structures for one story. So there are 3 structures that you are going to repeat over and over again. They're usually going to be verbs, but you can do 2 verbs and 1 other part of speech. And then you can set the rules that you prefer. For example, it has to be school appropriate. No sex, no killing. Now, in my classroom, my students love killing people. They love killing people. And you know what? We end up having fights. Everybody fights, and sometimes they die. It's just, if that gets them engaged, that's just where they go. All of my students know how to say dies. Like, all of them. Because everybody dies in our stories. They also learn all the other vocabulary, so whatever. And then it is okay to use words that the students are not familiar with. Just remember to give them the translation. So if there is a word that you're popping up and students seem like, what is that? You just turn around and write it on the board so that the students know what the translation is when you come back to it. And then you can always try to find cognates to help you with the story. So, how do we do a story? So the main setup of a story is you will have 6 steps. First, you're going to introduce the character and its problematic characteristics. So there's always going to be a problem with this character. In scene 1, you're going to attempt to solve the problem, and that's where you're going to dig into the target structures. That's where your repetition is going to start really heavy. Step number 3, the resolution or lack of a resolution, like it wasn't solved, so you're going to negate your target structures. Step number 4 is scene 2, so we're attempting again to go over what's happening. And then again, repetition of target structures. Step 5, you are going to have a resolution or not, and then again, negate all of your target structures. And then the last part of the story is the scene 3, where it's your last attempt to solve the problem. Normally, it works, or somebody dies in the case of my classroom. And then everybody gives up. So once again, you're repeating all the target structures, and then in the end, you give your conclusion of the story with the target structures again. All right, so I had, honestly, I took these slides from Slides Mania. I just downloaded them, and they were slides with something about animals, and when I chose to use this one, there was this picture of a koala, and I'm like, can I do this? A story. And so I looked at the picture of the koala, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give myself 3 structures: sleep, more than, and wake up. And I'm gonna name my story The Lazy Koala. Okay? So that's where I started. And so before I came here, I created a very quick script of what I wanted to do with the story. So I said, there is a lazy koala who's always sleeping and never wakes up to be with her friends. She wants to sleep more than anything else. Her friends try to wake her up in many different ways, but she wants to sleep more than playing, more than running, more than going to parties, and more than going to the beach. So again, listen to my repetitions there, okay? That's where I'm going to repeat all of my structures. But one day, her friends find out that she will wake up for one special food. She likes to eat this food more than sleep, okay? So now we're going to create a story. And I'm just gonna move over here, okay? So, everybody here familiar with Spanish, right? So let's try it in Spanish. La koala perezosa. La koala perezosa. Clase, ¿cómo se llama la koala?
Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin. Okay. Okay. Clase, Steve Irwin es una koala perezosa. A Steve Irwin le gusta mucho dormir. Ella duerme mucho. A Steve Irwin le gusta dormir más que todas las cosas. ¿Sí? Un día, Steve Irwin tiene un amigo. ¿El amigo es un animal o es una persona?
Animal.
¿Es un animal? ¿Qué animal es?
Elefante.
Es un elefante. Yo no sé dibujar elefantes, pero bueno. Un elefante se balanceaba. Ahí está mi elefante.
Oh,
¿Sí?
that's good.
Un elefante.
Wow.
Ok. Un día, la elefante Anita. Un día, la elefante Anita quiere despertar a Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin duerme. Entonces, Anita va a donde Steve Irwin y le grita: ¡Despiértate! Steve Irwin abre un ojo. Quiero dormir. ¡Despiértate! Me gusta dormir más que despertarme. Entonces Anita dice: tengo una idea. Steve Irwin, despiértate. Vamos a... ¿A dónde vamos?
A la playa.
A la playa. Steve Irwin, vamos a la playa. Despiértate. Steve Irwin abre un ojo, abre el otro, se despierta. Anita, me gusta dormir más que ir a la playa. No quiero despertarme. Voy a dormir. Anita no está feliz, pero Anita se va a la playa sin Steve Irwin. Otro día, Steve Irwin tiene otro amigo. ¿Cómo se llama?
Marco.
¿Qué es? ¿Es un animal?
Marco, es una persona.
Ah, Marco. Muy bien, es Marco. Es Marco una persona. Marco quiere despertar a Steve Irwin. Entonces, Marco va a donde Steve Irwin y le grita: ¡Despiértate! Pero Steve Irwin no quiere despertarse. Steve Irwin duerme. Marco tiene una idea. Marco le dice: Steve Irwin, despiértate. Vamos a
La escuela.
la escuela. Steve Irwin abre un ojo y dice: me gusta dormir más que la escuela, como mis estudiantes. A mis estudiantes les gusta dormir en la escuela.
Durante la clase.
Durante la clase. Mis estudiantes duermen durante la clase. No se despiertan para la clase de español. Marco dice: vamos a la escuela, despiértate. Steve Irwin dice: me gusta dormir más que la escuela. Lo siento, no voy a despertarme. Marco se va a la escuela. hay otro amigo. Este amigo de Steve Irwin conoce a Steve Irwin muy bien. Este amigo de Steve Irwin sabe cómo despertar a Steve Irwin, porque sabe que hay una cosa que a Steve Irwin le gusta más que dormir. ¿Quién es el amigo? ¿Es un animal? ¿Es una persona?
Es otro koala.
Es otro koala. Ah, muy bien. Es otro koala. ¿Cómo se llama?
Susie.
Susie. Ah. Susie sabe que hay una cosa que a Steve Irwin le gusta más que dormir. Entonces, Susie va donde Steve Irwin y le dice, ¡despiértate! Steve Irwin abre un ojo y dice, ¿por qué? Susie le dice,
Tengo takis.
Susie tiene takis para Steve Irwin. Y Steve Irwin dice, ¿takis? Me gustan los takis más que dormir. Entonces Steve Irwin se despierta porque a Steve Irwin le gusta comer takis más que dormir. If I would have given you a job during that story that I would give to a student that I know normally needs a little bit of something to do because they're going to disrupt my class, I would have told the student, every time that you hear me say duerme or dormir, you tally. Tell me how many times I say it at the end of the story. Or más que, or despierta. So I would have given a job to students that need that extra thing to do so that I can go through the story and not have those disruptions. So you have to pick, and I don't always get those. Like sometimes I just go through the story. But if I needed to give somebody a job because they keep disrupting my class constantly, that is a job to give during a story. There are students who are always going to participate, that's fine, because the other students are paying attention and listening to the story. I said the words duerme, dormir, dormirse, se duerme multiple times. I said más que multiple times. That is where the job of the teacher comes with this. The job of the teacher comes with, I need to make sure that I'm repeating these words. Now, in the original form of the story asking, there is more interaction with the students. I struggle a lot with the interaction. They get bored. In my case. Now, you can go back and say, clase, Steve Irwin le gusta más dormir o le gusta más despertarse. But it just starts going so slow. They just want to know where the story goes. So it is fine. And so you just guide the story, and then this is their story. And what I do is normally I just take a picture at the end of the story. I just take a picture of that so that I remember who the characters were, because it also helps me a lot rewrite the story afterwards. So what I want you to do now is pick one of the pictures that I have up there. And I have 3 target structures: jump, see, and eat. Or you can come up with your own if you can think of any of your own. And create a basic script, like the one that I told you before I started telling the story. Pick one of those pictures and create a very basic script of what you, how would you create that story so that you can present it to your students.